You capture that one?
You have to be aware of the business that's going on in the House. When Parliament is sitting, we physically can't leave.
Welcome to this edition of Nash Chats. Now, I'm with Kris Faafoi, who is the Labour Chief Whip. Chief Whip, mate.
That's right.
What does that mean?
So Andrew's the captain and coach,
Yep.
and I kind of see myself as a bit of a team manager
Okay.
to make sure whatever he wants us to do gets done logistic-wise, making sure we corral our troops. And also, I think importantly, is making sure our headspaces are right too, that everyone's happy in
Okay.
their work, which can be hard.
So you're sort of part human resources manager,
That's right.
part mentor,
Yep.
shoulder to lean on, partial care.
And whip as well.
And
So
whip.
there are things that places that we need to be, and things that we need to do as part of the job. So
Okay.
I've got to make sure those get done. But also, as you say, pastoral care, making sure that everyone's all right. And I think that's a really important part of it that people don't necessarily realise happens around this place.
So we've got 32 MPs.
Yeah.
And so that means, when we're voting on a bill in Parliament, for example, we get 32 votes.
That's right.
But Andrew is away on a Wednesday and a Thursday often with Jacinda. So how can we vote with 32 votes when we've got MPs away?
Good question.
How does that work?
So we have to have 3/4 of our MPs on the precinct,
Right.
so on site at any one time if we're voting. So with 32 for us, it means we can let 8 MPs
Yep.
off site at any one time. If we go underneath that, then we've got to vote fewer than 32.
Okay.
So one of my jobs is prioritising who should go and who shouldn't. So it makes me very popular and unpopular at the same time.
I was going to say, so
Yeah.
you can often be the whipping boy when someone wants to go away, but Andrew takes priority.
That's right. So Andrew always has leave. He's been asked to do things at all times, so he can come and go as he please. Not so much for the rest of the 31 of us. So it can get difficult with the competing needs of different MPs, but usually we can find a happy medium where everyone gets to do what they want. Comes a little bit harder at election time because everyone wants to go back to the electorate, but usually we can find a way.
Was herding cats a little unfair to our colleagues?
No.
Or? So is that the same with the Nats? They have a quarter of their MPs can go and...
So Tim McIndoe, who is the government chief whip, has exactly the same thing. He's got 59. He can only have a quarter of his away at any one time. Slightly more responsibility on him to make sure he's got the numbers, because if they lose a vote, especially if it's an important one, it's all over. So they have exactly the same kind of parliamentary constraints that we do. So it's a juggling match.
So you're the chief whip. You also have a junior whip helping you out. Is there a clear division in jobs?
It's good to have two. So Carmel Cepoloni, our colleague, is the junior whip. And sometimes someone might be more comfortable taking a personal issue or something that's going on in the electorate to her. That's fine. I think that's why you make sure you've got a bit of an option. But we work together very well. She's a very good organiser. Sometimes I can't be, and she's also good at the pastoral chats too. And I think she's pretty positive attitude around here, so she makes sure people are upbeat. When Parliament is sitting, we physically can't leave, and I think we'd love to be at every community event that we want to. But when the House is sitting, we're pretty much here from Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Easier for me as a Wellington-based MP because I can nip in and out, but it's a bit harder for you because you need to have a flight or drive 4 hours to get to that meeting. So it's that's harder, and juggling those needs and making sure that people who are a bit further afield can do that every so often is something that I think we need to be aware of. Now, this place has to work. We have to go to select committees. We have to be aware of the business that's going on in the House, make sure that our spokespeople for the particular pieces of legislation that are going through the House are here. So someone has to have an oversight of that, and usually the leadership team, Kris Hipkins as Shadow Leader of the House, and the Whip's office usually do a pretty good job of making that happen. Sometimes it happens just by the skin of its teeth, but it still happens, and that's just the way it is.
Now, is there anything that you have to do, anything formal you have to do in your role, like committees you have to attend or meetings you have to attend because you're the Whip?
So myself and Kris Hipkins attend a business committee at the beginning of every sitting week, so Tuesday afternoon. We go with Jerry Browner, who's the Leader of the House, and other Whips around the Parliament, and we basically map out the week. This is what's on the agenda, any issues. Sometimes we do have issues, but generally we agree with the business that's on the agenda. Sometimes we can find out at last minute. That's just life around this place. But usually on a Tuesday afternoon we have a pretty good idea of what's set out for us for the week ahead.
What time do you tend, when the House is sitting, what time do you tend to get in the office?
Because there are things that I need to do as in my role as an MP as well, I tried to get in maybe just before 8.
Yep.
We've got a procedures meeting that we have at 8:45 where we all bid for questions for question time. Then I've just like you guys, I've got a select committee, but myself and Kris, who's the shadow leader of the House and former whip, have to make sure that the House is running smoothly. And our night on a Tuesday and Wednesday finishes at 10, as you know.
Yep.
So once that's done, then again I try and take an hour now to make sure that I've read the emails that I haven't been able to get through. So the hours can get long, but be careful what you ask for.
Kris is the MP for Mana as well. What is Mana? What's the main area for Mana?
So Porirua. So it starts, if anyone knows Wellington very well, kind of starts at the northern end of Tawa and goes all the way up to Raumati Beach and Parapara. So I saw you driving it through it the other day on one of the videos.
So it's a big electorate.
Yeah, big-ish, not compared to Turakatini.
No, that's true.
One of our colleagues has got the whole South Island and Wellington, and I guess that's another one of the challenges. Reno, people don't realise that he's got such a big area to cover, so we have to look after him because to make sure he has got the time away to be able to go to all the places that he needs to.
How do you become Chief Whip? I mean, are you appointed or...?
So in our caucus, you are voted in, so you have to have the confidence of the whole caucus to be able to become the whip. And I think you have to be trusted that sometimes you're going to be dealing with some sensitive issues and that you will deal with that compassionately. And also that, if you need to tell someone that they can't do something, that you got the respect of others to be able to do that too. That can be tough because sometimes, as you know and as I know, MPs have got massive competing needs. So that's just the reality of our lives around here.
Yeah, I must admit that must be one of the tricky roles because 32 people who believe that their electorate or their portfolio is the most important.
Yeah.
But I suppose part of yours is ensuring that we do work as a team, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think if you've got some bad news for a colleague, I think it's important to give them context as to why they can or cannot do something. So I think if you just say no and that's all you give them, then they don't necessarily understand why that is. But I try and give context as much as I can to try and make my bed a little bit better because the demands of all those 30 other people wanting something that you can't give them can sometimes get a little bit stressful, but it's just part of the job. The place does operate. I think people at home think that we are at loggerheads all the time, but just as we have to work in a team in our caucus, we also have to work collaboratively with the other parties to make sure that this place ticks along. We fight with them, of course we do. We've got some ideological differences, but we have to work with them in that respect.
And I think that's a really good point because if all people saw was question time or the clips on the worst of the quits on the news at question time, then they would think we behave like kindergarten kids. But MPs do, the vast majority of the time, work in a collegial atmosphere and manner to get things done, don't we?
Yeah, and I've likened this place very much to school. There's a rhythm to it. We've got to be at a certain place at a certain time every week. And if we throw a massive spanner in the works there with the other part of the school, then things don't happen as the way they should. Of course, we had a debate, but this place has got to operate, and a lot of the time we do agree on legislation, and we're just going to make sure that that kind of work of government and changing of legislation happens. So,
if this is a school, are you the head prefect?
That's a very good question. I guess yes, which makes me feel a lot more powerful right now.
I've just shrunk. Hey, Kris, it's been fantastic talking to you. Thanks for providing a little bit of insight into what actually happens in our party and in Parliament. What I would say, if you have any questions for Kris Faafoi as the Chief Whip or anything about what happens in Parliament that you'd like to know more about, please post it and I promise to get back to you. Thank you very much for watching Nash Chats. Thanks, Kris.
Cheers, Nash.
Cheers, mate.